Whether you're a high achiever working towards a really big goal, or you're multi-passionate with 5 or 6 projects that are all equally important to you, being motivated feels like it's at the core. It's like the missing piece to our productivity and our success. And so, in this episode, we are unpacking the psychology of being motivated so that by the end of this episode, you understand exactly what is driving your motivation and how you can work with it moving forward. Let's get right into it. This is The Self-Led Leader. I'm Dr. Christina Ady, and in this show, we explore how your beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of determine the results that you're getting. Every week, we go beyond your skills and strategy to explore the psychology of how you operate and how it's been limiting you so you can finally achieve the goals you didn't think you could. Let's get into today's episode. Motivation can feel like this ginormous mountain to climb, or like this elusive feeling that is magically there one day and spontaneously gone the next. It is so incredibly normal to have motivation, to have energy, to feel excitement towards something like a project, a task, a goal that you have, and then suddenly feel like it's completely gone. Whether you've tried to hack your own motivation through productivity or more confidence or trying to be more competent in that topic, you may have found that this just hasn't worked. And so when it comes to the psychology of motivation, it's important to understand that motivation is typically broken down into 2 camps. We have our intrinsic motivation, which is when you are driven by internal factors, and extrinsic motivation, which is when you are driven by external factors. So when you are intrinsically motivated, you care about your task because of your own personal reasons. Maybe you want to take pride in the fact that you've set high standards and achieved them. You want to feel a sense of accomplishment, a sense of progress. You enjoy learning. You enjoy working towards things. You feel good doing the things that you set out to do, regardless of whether or not someone else sees it, recognizes it, or sees the value in it the way that you do. If you're extrinsically motivated, you are driven by the external factors that are important to you. This can look like a promotion, recognition, praise, or acknowledgement from other individuals, especially at work. This can look like getting recognition for the hard work that you put in from your supervisors or your team. It can look like getting that promotion and feeling like all of your hard work finally paid off because you got the recognition that you deserve and that you've been looking for. It's important to understand that neither one is better or worse. One is just a better fit for you. Now, naturally, all of us fall on the spectrum of being intrinsically to extrinsically motivated. All of us fall somewhere on the range and tend to lean towards one more than the other, generally speaking. Now, this is due to our social conditioning, our upbringing, what we were told to prioritize, the values that were instilled in us based on how we grew up and what we were taught to prioritize. This contributes to our current sense of motivation. However, the nuance to this is that aside from being generally more intrinsically versus extrinsically motivated, you also have a sense of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation for each task that you need to work on. And this is where it's important to understand the nuance. Because when it comes to the motivation that you have for the task at hand, in order to feel like you are staying motivated, like you're staying productive, like you're seeing the progress that you're craving, you must be receiving feedback that matches the motivation. So let's unpack what this means. If you're intrinsically motivated, you care about the standards you've set, the progress that you're making, your own development in the process. Well then, the feedback that you are looking for in order to stay motivated has to account for those things. It has to show you that those needs, those motivations are being met. So that looks like tracking your own progress, celebrating your own wins, recognizing how far you have come. The typical advice that you hear in the personal development space. Yes, it is applicable when you are intrinsically motivated. If, on the other hand, you're extrinsically motivated, you are driven by the external factors like the recognition, the job well done from other individuals, the acknowledgement of your progress. Well, the feedback that you receive must match that. So if you're only looking at your own work and trying to figure out if you've made enough progress, you will continue to feel dissatisfied because you are lacking the external feedback that you need in order to feel like you're making the right progress. The two must match. Otherwise, it can feel like you are running on a hamster wheel while losing all motivation to continue. Now, imposter syndrome is a really good example of this. If you haven't listened to last week's episode, I broke down the psychology of imposter syndrome and how our perspective is such an important component of whether or not we continue to feel imposter syndrome. And motivation plays into this. Because if you're intrinsically motivated and you feel like an imposter, if you're dealing with imposter syndrome as an example, and you are only receiving external feedback, you're discounting your own success, you're discounting your own progress, you're not tracking your wins, you're not celebrating how far you come, you're not looking at all of the ways that you are continuing to progress, and your supervisor or your director is telling you that you're doing a good job. Well, the feedback doesn't match the internal source, and so you'll discount it, and you won't believe it, and it won't make you feel motivated. If, on the other hand, you are extrinsically motivated and you're dealing with something like imposter syndrome, when you are completing a task and you feel that sense of, I did a good job, the doubt will creep in because you lack the external validation to match. And so it's not just about motivation, even though that's such a huge part of it. It ripples out into so much of our productivity and our ability to perform at work. And so when it comes to your motivation, it's so incredibly important to first understand where on the spectrum it is that you fall, whether you're generally intrinsically motivated or extrinsically. And if you notice that you feel a certain way about it, that is totally okay. Because again, the way that we were brought up, the way that we were socially conditioned, who we were taught to be, is a driving factor in how we currently think and how we currently act. And perhaps some of your values have changed, some of your perspective has changed, and it can be hard to be honest with yourself and acknowledge that, perhaps I am extrinsically motivated and I am doing this in order to get recognition, and maybe you don't like that about yourself. Or on the other hand, maybe you were taught that hard work only matters if it's validated and recognized by others, and maybe you're intrinsically motivated and you feel like you're wasting time feeling pride in the work that you've done that no one else has seen, right? Our upbringing is so incredibly crucial to how we currently think, even if so much time has passed. So be honest with yourself as a starting point. But then the next layer in is when you sit down, when you're feeling like you lost the motivation to do a certain task, when you're dreading it, when it doesn't feel like it's something you'd like to continue working on, do a quick check-in with yourself and try to decide and decipher whether that task specifically is intrinsically versus extrinsically motivated. Because when you recognize exactly what is driving you, that is when you can make sure that you are seeking the right signals to match. And when the two align, if you're intrinsically motivated and you're getting intrinsic feedback, if you're extrinsically motivated and you're getting that external feedback, when the signals align, it becomes so much easier to feel like you are making progress, like you're on the right track, and thereby to continue to stay motivated, or at the very least to persist with the task that you need to complete. And when it comes to something like running your own team at work, it's important to understand that there is variety and fluctuation in the type of motivation we all feel. And just because I might be intrinsically motivated doesn't mean that you are. And your team functions the exact same way. So if you want to take this one layer deeper, consider the motivation of your team as well. Because when you can recognize the motivation of your team, that is when you can start to then give them or help them along with the type of feedback that they need. Because being a better leader starts with understanding how to lead yourself. And so when you really recognize your own motivation and what is driving it and how to work with it intentionally, you can then start to pass that on in the way that you're interacting with your team, the way that you're leading them, the way that you're supporting them through their lulls and highs of motivation as well. And if this has been helpful, if this is something that you'd like to go deeper into, understanding who you are as a leader, how you currently show up, and how your psychology is such a driving part of that, and understanding how to improve your executive presence while overcoming your own self-doubt, come check out the Executive Signals community. I'll link the information in the description, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye.